Alrighty, hey there folks, my name's ReiReiBarker, and I want to unpack a few recent goings on in the Elder Scrolls Legends. I'm going to start with the balance patch now that 3-ish weeks have passed. Speak about the drop changes from my own perspective and people I've spoken to, and give my perspective on the Sparky Pants announcement. So I was fairly critical of the balance patch in its outset. I said that it felt clumsy, and that Drain Vitality in particular didn't make a great deal of sense to me. I've played a little bit over 800 ladder games in the 3-ish weeks since the balance patch, and I've seen natural Drain Vitality in a deck 7 times. Now, of course, there could be decks that ran Drain Vitality, but I didn't see it. But either way, that's pretty low representation. So we could assume that people just aren't trying to use it. Aside from the outliers there, it's possibly a factor. Another is that it's just not powerful enough anymore, and people are kind of moving on to other tools. I'm inclined to go with the latter. The effect that this seems to have had is basically killing Scout as a reactive deck. I've played versus Scout the class. It's 11, now it's 13 times in those games. 6 of them were proactive strategies, so looking to attack. One was the Petamax's Abomination, and the remaining 5 were Uprising Scout. So admittedly, it is a small sample size. I'm just one person. I don't believe I've been matched with anyone above rank 5, so I'm kind of speaking to rank 5 and above. But to me, that feels like quite a low representation. If we look at tournaments, Warp Meta has had, not including the Abomination, like 1 each tournament, and the biggest one would probably be TDC Jason doing well with the Control Scout in his lineup at Masters. I think that's more a virtue of Jason being very good at card games. The deck is obviously still very good versus Control, but as he demonstrated, but quite a few things have to go right for you to take down aggro, in my opinion. My conclusion on that one is that Drain Vitality has basically killed Control Scout. I think that increasing the cost of both Drain Vitality and Word Wall would have resulted in less oops I win hands with Drain Vitality, while still having access to its main defensive tool. I mean, the goal could have been to stop the deck being competitively viable in its current state, in which case, mission kind of accomplished. That is a little tongue-in-cheek, because it's only been 3 weeks, and not everyone is actively trying to build decks and try new things. The other classes and houses seem fairly unaffected by it. Telvanni Control has enough defensive tools already, and many builds weren't using it anyway. Whether it's Uprising or Nixox combo. A knock-on effect of that is, with Scout, without much Scout being around, is that yellow control, mainly Tribunal, is pretty highly represented. Scout was a natural predator, so it's not really around to keep it in check. I've seen a lot of particularly greedy versions that should beat basically other control and not much else. But I think the main effect, let's call it, has been the stock of conscription. Taliesin's conscription has gone way up, both on a theory level and also just in representation. I've certainly been playing it a lot, and we've sort of seen a lot in Masters. I've seen a lot in Ladder. I'd argue it's probably the biggest winner of the balance patch. So let's move on to, where is it? Telvos Magister. Its change brings it more in line with the other, repeatable board creatures like Daggerfall Mage and Breton Conjurer. It does lower its power level significantly, but its power level was absurd already. So I definitely still think it's playable. Mid-Battle Mage, and by extension, though not as heavily, Mid-Dagoth, we hit hardest by it, I think. And we've seen Mid-Battle Mage kind of evolve a bit to just, utilize various different tools, a lot of Blood Dragons, aspect of Hersine in there. People just generally exploring different ways to utilize that deck. Still a very good creature, and likely to provide, at least a 2-for-1 against decks faster than you, or still just lock up the game. I think Lesser Ward has probably gotten a bit better, but it looks like a lot of people are choosing to go in a different direction there. I predict, we'll still be seeing Telvos for months, years to come. Overall, I think I like this change. It was very good, not oppressively so. It's not like you can. If it was more expensive, then I think it'd just be right out the window, and you can't lower its health. I mean, sorry, you can't lower its attack. With that, kind of ruining that Dagoth, 5 power matters synergy. So moving on to Hand of Dagoth. It's probably the most subtle change. I don't think it affects its power level all that much, or affects how much play it sees. There's few interactions, that like Earthbone Spinner can kind of trade 1-for-1 with it, but largely I'd say it is as it was. Changing its cost, I think, would have been dramatically harmful to its playability. Removing any of the keywords, flavor death, because it's no longer Hand of Dagoth, and you can't touch its attack either for the same reason as Telvos. I thought it was a little unnecessary. Was my initial statement on it. But this one feels fine. Anything that makes an absurdly overpowered creature, but not oppressive, a little bit easier to deal with is okay in my book. Right. Next, we're going to go for Mudcrab Merchant. I really don't like random effects, especially ones with the scope or magnitude of this. Barrel size tinkering doesn't count. Anything that makes random cards decide less competitive games is totally fine by me, so I'm pretty happy with it. What I do like, however, is playable 1-drops. Aspirant and Quartermaster have been seeing a lot more play recently, and Mudcrab Merchant, dropping off, being relegated to either Neutral Matters decks or Unite the Houses builds, means there's one less, I suppose, playable 1-drop around. Well, I do think it is still playable, but it's seeing a lot less play. It doesn't trade 1-for-1 with Wardcrafter anymore. It's no longer a 2/3 with buffs, so it matters a bit. But in a sense, seeing level 1-drop leave sucks. But I kind of wish the card never existed in the first place, to be honest. although it does have one of the greatest voice lines in TESLegends. No, not him. No, Haunted Manor. I think the card lost a little bit of power, and it needed to. I think that Hlalu is kind of still as strong as it was, and can still certainly high roll. But just the environment that we're in, with conscription decks and a lot of control, it's not as not as good as it was, which I think is a good thing. It'll be interesting to see how this goes given enough time. But I think the amusing part of this change is I think that it's made players use it properly, which is as a way to play around AoE and give you another tool to go late versus reactive decks by playing multiple threats each turn, large ones even. I've seen a lot less, people having Haunted Manor as their first play of the game, and even less absurdity like giant bat around. So that gets a win from me. So moving on to Ulfric's Uprising. Aside from messing up maths and making decks without access to ramp much less likely to utilize it as a value tool, I don't think this has changed too much in terms of power level or playability. I mean, obviously, there's doing things quite a bit later, a turn later even, but it's still very strong. Its main application in Telvanni Nixox combo just got to turn slower in some ways and gained a beneficial interaction or two in others. So, yeah, jury's out on this one. Depends what they wanted to achieve, but it's still seeing a lot of play. Still quite good. Where is it? The Duke. The only buff of the set. I don't think it got a very high boost in playability. The issue is the text. Like if it lives, it's amazing. Kind of like Bannerman in a sense. But it goes in different decks, and it's a one-of, so you can only play it in Hlalu. If you change the text to either trigger the turn it comes into play, which would be pretty awkward and inelegant to execute, then I don't think it really works. And if you change to how Pathmage operates, then you've got the best card in the game, but unique and only playable in one deck. Can't have all cards be amazing, so maybe buff it to a 5/5, perhaps. I could see that happening. That way it trades, with catapults and Stormcloak battalions and pit lions and such. But yeah, so I'll just give a little overview of I suppose meta and balance in general. I think it's healthy, but we've been in a fairly established meta for a while now, and I personally am a bit bored. There are lots of viable decks, but I'm really looking forward to some new cards, a new set, ASAP preferably. I'm sure there are still a few secrets to tap, but I feel like the meta is 99% solved. The developer announcements, that Josh Idle-Layton, who you may have seen doing some fantastic and insightful casting at Masters, really assuaged, and I don't know how to pronounce that word, a lot of my fears. Sparky Pants is as great as they seem to be. Designing fine and balanced card games is not for the uninitiated. And we have the fortune of TESLegends being the best there is, at least in my opinion. I share the wish of many for the TESL to keep thriving and growing for years to come. And I'll end on the drop changes, the changes to how drops happen. So in case you missed it, basically drops are KO'd for rebroadcasts. They're only available on live streams now. As you know, just looking at it, kind of objectively from big picture, it seems to have worked amazingly. Rebroadcasts dwindling. Live streams, it's pretty much, you've got a live streamer at the top of the directory at all times, and that can be, a little top heavy, but that's just the nature of things. And from a personal perspective, it's actually just made me so much happier to be streaming. Like, I'm not laboring under any illusions that I'm gonna make $1 million from streaming. Like, my short, mid, long-term-ish goal is to, stream like a full-time job, and hopefully have it pay for my fortnightly medication. But it just feels so much better. There's so much more interaction going on. Streamers are happier. Everyone I've spoken to says this is a pretty positive change. I think we had one, rebroadcaster leave fairly unceremoniously, but that sucks. Anyway, if you got this far, thank you very much. You can catch me live streaming every weekday except Thursday, plus bonus streams from midnight to 5 a.m. Eastern time, or 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. my time, and earlier on the weekends, so that Americans can hopefully check me out a bit more. But thanks for watching. I would appreciate any feedback or different opinions in the comment section, and I'll catch you on Twitch.